What's up, guys? Good morning, and it is day 2 of our Loudon Lake, Tellico Lake, French Broad, you know, all the stuff here in the Knoxville area. What am I forgetting? Holston. What other bodies of water am I forgetting? Here's the problem. There's so many bodies of water to fish in the Knoxville area, it's hard to name them all. That's what's great about this place, and that is why Knox rocks. So here's the deal. I am out here again on day 2 with this young man. And here's the reason that I decided to come back out for day 2. What makes a great tournament angler is the ability to make adjustments, okay? 2-day tournaments is what really tests an angler's mettle. And this isn't a 2-day tournament, but it's 2 one-day tournaments. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna follow Daniel again on day 2, or the second day of the event here in Knoxville. And we're just gonna see what kind of adjustment he makes, what kind of changes he makes, what kind of improvements or not improvements that he does. So I'm gonna turn it over to him, and we're gonna talk about what, so what's the game plan for today, buddy?
I might switch up some strategies. I might go to soft plastics today.
Okay.
You know, I was throwing chatterbaits and moving baits and reaction baits all day yesterday, so I might switch it up a little bit, see if they're going to want something different, see if I can get a bigger bag today.
So are you going to the pretty much the same spot?
Yeah.
Okay. So sticking with the Marina pattern.
Sticking with the Marina.
So you're doing the if it ain't broke, if it ain't completely broke, don't fix it. I mean, you did put a 20.5-inch fish on the board, so it's not like it's like there weren't fish there.
Right.
You don't fish with a depth finder, right?
Yeah.
So you're pretty much stuck with sight targets. You don't have that ability to dissect that third dimension. Where did you end up finishing yesterday?
4th.
4th with no electronics on the Tennessee River against arguably one of the stiffest fields that we've had yet. Tennessee is kind of the heartland of some hardcore competitive anglers, and to finish 4th in that field that big right there is pretty dang on impressive. When you think about the fact that he didn't have electronics, that's even more impressive. But he's going back today, and he is going to try to switch things up a little bit. We had a little conversation before we got on camera about, you know, what would you have done different? And that's what he said he would have done different. So we're going to get on the water with Daniel Keys, and we're going to see what he can do on day 2 here at the KBF Trail, Knoxville, Tennessee. All right, guys, so I ran into this guy right here. So where do you keep the batteries for this shirt? Is there like a battery pack in the back?
Right back here. That's where I keep my head too.
Anyway, so guys, this is Joe from down there in Coleman, Alabama. So Joe, what you planning for today?
Gonna go out and catch a few on top water early, move out on some points, and there's no wake zone, try to catch a few more.
What kind of top water specifically?
Pop-Rs.
Pop-Rs. Did you have success with that yesterday?
I did.
Sweet. Well, brother, good luck. I am
you.
going to get my stuff ready and head out as well. So guys, one of my favorite dock marina fishing techniques is to use one of these weighted flukes. The 2 best ones that I know of are the KVD's Perfect Plastic from Strike King and the Yamamoto flukes. They're a little bit more weighted, so they kind of fall like a Senko. And when I'm fishing in and around docks, I like to use a 6/8 to 1 gear ratio. And I like to use a little bit shorter rod. In this case, I'm using a 610 medium heavy, and I like a moderate action. It loads a little better. It's a little bit more forgiving when I hook the fish and I got to fight them. In other words, it doesn't unload around docks. And so a 610 medium heavy, moderate action. I can also throw small crankbaits on this rod, and I like to throw, you know, little small jerk baits up in and around docks too, as long as there's not a lot of rope and debris to catch onto. So a little bit shorter rod lets you be a little bit more accurate and a little bit more precision, so you're not getting hung up in the boats and hitting docks and really frustrating the marina residents or the marina owners and things along those lines. So let's take a second and talk about marina etiquette. There he is. So there's an etiquette to fishing marinas, okay? And I think a lot of folks overlook that. So give me a second, I'm gonna talk to you about that. Once I get this little dude off of here and back to where he came from. That's the other cool thing about the fluke bite, is that you almost always hook them right dead in the top of the mouth just like that, and your bait runs up the line. But anyway, so back to marina etiquette. I like to fish soft plastics as much as I can possibly get away with it. Obviously chatterbaits and things like that are great baits for fishing in the marina, but they also tend to really sound like a rifle going off if you actually hit a boat inadvertently. I see a lot of anglers doing this, and I'm just going to ask you from the standpoint of, as sportsmen, let's be respectful of other people's property. Don't use boats as backboards. Don't bank your shot off the boats that are the property of these people that have their boats at the marinas. You wouldn't want somebody to walk up and throw a rock at your truck. And, you know, that's exactly what you're doing when you take a rod and use a crankbait or a jig head or a swim jig or a chatterbait, and you bang it against the side of a boat. And, you know, some of these gel coats are really expensive. They're also kind of fragile. You know, they crack real easy and they spider web. So we had an incident yesterday where a lady come out screaming at Daniel, and it wasn't really as much Daniel as it was she had reached a level of frustration with the lack of respect from anglers that she kind of took it all out on him. So I called her, we had a really great conversation, and I said, listen, let's not be us against each other. There's too much divisiveness in this world right now, and marina fishing is great. You guys know as well as I do. I'm sitting here catching fish while I'm talking about it, but marina fishing is awesome. But these marina owners really work hard in creating a place that's a sanctuary for the folks that live here. Most folks that live on board their boats or live in marinas are retired, so they're looking for a little bit more peace and quiet. So be respectful. Don't hoot and holler. I'm guilty of really getting excited, but I have to temper that when I'm fishing in a marina. So it's our water in the marina, right? But it's their marina. So be respectful. One thing I'll tell you is this: it's kind of a slippery slope when it comes to, like, if you hang a lure up. If you hang a lure up, in many marina owners' minds, if you go up to get that hook off of the dock, you're at that point trespassing. So I'm going to ask this of marina owners. I think that it makes sense to say, listen, if you hang your lure up, please do the best you can to retrieve it, because I can tell you the other side of that is that a lot of people that live in marinas are coming in and out with groceries in their hands. They can't see where they're going. They're pushing a cart. And I watched the lady 2 years ago walking down the dock trip and fall what looked like unexpectedly. What had happened was there's a little jerk bait that somebody had hung up on the dock, and they broke their line off and left it there. She's walking along and catches that jerk bait in her foot, and fell flat on her face, and then she was hooked and the dock was hooked, and some irresponsible angler just left a jerk bait hooked in the dock. So that's what creates the friction. That's what creates the frustration. So if we can both do our parts to be respectful of each other, I think everybody will have a lot better experience. So when it comes to fishing marinas, show a little etiquette, show a little respect, and you'll get respect in return. You'll get a lot less of these videos where people are coming out screaming at each other about anglers if we also do our part. So try not to bank off of their gel coats. If you hang up, do the best you can to retrieve your lure. And if somebody does come out yelling and screaming, don't go out of your way to egg it on. Just be respectful, stand your ground, respect your rights to say, this is public water, I can fish here. You know, in some cases, there are places where the marinas have the right to prohibit you from entering, but those are usually clearly marked. Let's all respect each other. We'll have a lot more fun. We'll catch a lot more fish, and we'll get a lot less frustrated. When I'm fishing marinas, I like to use a little bit heavier gauge hook because I'm fishing the plastic weightless. I want to be able to skip it, but I also want it to be able to fall a little bit faster than your normal your normal fluke. I want it to fall a lot like a Cinco. So it's a combination of using a little bit heavier gauge, and in this case I'm using a 5/0 hook, and then you're just going to line that thing up right there, rig it weedless. I like to put a slight little belly in it to make it to where it kind of searches, and it's almost like you're walking the dog just below the surface, and that is absolutely deadly in marinas. and in tight places. So KVD Perfect Plastic. Morning, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. What's the name of this marina? Concord? Cool. That's a beautiful marina. They've done a good job of keeping the spider webs and wasp nests and all that down.
Yeah, they did.
That's nice. Thank you. So again, what I like to do is I like to cast as far back into the pockets as I can. One other thing you don't want to do is cast over dock lines and things like that, because that also leads to snags. It's frustrating for the dock, the dock residents. The other thing that can happen is if you hang up into a line, especially if you're throwing a treble hook bait and you break it off, then they're pulling that line in and don't know it's there, and then they get a hook in their hand. And then of course, they're gonna hate anglers, so be very, very, very mindful of things like that, and I think we'll all get along a heck of a lot better. I put that one right in the money spot. That ought to be a fish. If it's not a fish, there's something wrong. The fish gods won't be smiling today. Man, I would have thought for sure that was a fish. So I'm gonna actually skip this bait. The other thing I like these bigger hooks is I can hold onto the hook and I can use that to pitch and flip and skip my baits up into those little skinny spots. And I think one thing that a lot of guys overlook when marina fishing and dock fishing is they always want to get as far back as they can, but a lot of times the fish are right out here on the ends of the docks. And so a lot of times I'll make an exploratory cast and just hit a dock end at like a 45. I'll cast up into the pocket and pull it past there at a 45, and then if I figure out there's one there, then I'll always hit that first and then go into the back, because I'm going to maximize my ability to catch fish. And guys, I've literally had days where I've caught 75 to 100 fish in like 5 slips, in a marina. Let's sidestep on over here to the next dock, or to the next slip. Oh, this is juicy. This is juicy. I always like it when there's a boat in the slip. I know empty slips are a lot more attractive because they're easier to cast into, but I just don't seem to catch as many fish out of empty slips. What I was trying to do there is I was trying to jinx myself into catching a fish, because I said I don't catch them in empty slips. I catch them in empty slips all the time, but my little reverse psychology trick didn't seem to work. One thing to pay attention to when you're marina fishing is a lot of times you'll catch the fish pretty much the same depth back in there. And if you get to the point where you've kind of noticed that, you can cut out fishing certain parts of the docks. One thing that's given me a lot of insight over the years is I like to snorkel. I spent a lot of time in the Navy as a rescue swimmer, so I spent a lot of time swimming with a snorkel. And so I haven't done it in several years, but I did it back when I was younger. I used to go to marinas, take my fins and mask and my kayak, and I would just pull up and drop my anchor, roll out of the kayak and swim around with my fins and mask, like just trying to get a idea of how the fish oriented. And maybe it's time for me to do that again. I think I need about 40-50 more pounds off in the weight loss journey before I decide to roll off it. Otherwise somebody might call in and say they have a narwhal sighting in a marina. Probably need to get a tan too, or they might think it's a beluga. Fish are definitely active. So when fishing with Daniel yesterday, the one thing that I noticed is, and this could be a factor of being young, but it's also something that a lot of anglers do, is they power fish all day. Well, we've got a full moon right now, and during a full moon, the fish are really active up in the middle of the day. So that means they're less active early in the morning, unless you catch that feeding time just right. I'm a big fan of Bass Forecast. It's got some really easy to use stuff. You can delve more into it and learn how to dissect it yourself, but I really like Bass Forecast. It's super easy. And so if you don't get your peak feeding time, stop power fishing. slow down. And so yesterday he pretty much power fished the entire day. And if you really look at the times that he caught fish and power fishing, it was pretty much when he should have. It was during the power fishing times. And then the times when he struggled a little bit more to catch fish, it was around the times that he should have been doing a little bit more finesse. For the most part, he was using his plastics as his throwback lure and throwback lure exclusively. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a fantastic plan. But sometimes you got to slow down. During the power fishing time or the peak feeding time, the fish's strike zone's a lot bigger. They'll run out and grab a bait. They'll chase it down. But when you get into the scenario where it's off peak and they're pulled up tight to cover, he was doing a good job of getting reaction bites, and I think that's why he has enough confidence to fish that lure. But you can get those same reaction bites, but you can also get those opportunity bites by switching to a plastic that's a little bit slower moving, stays in the strike zone a little bit longer, and it really just kind of forces that fish to opportunity feed. So think about that next time you're fishing in and around docks, but just in fishing in general. Use your soul lunar times to dictate what you do, when you do, how you do what you do. Does that make sense? Power fish during your peak times, slow it down and finesse fish, or something that stays in the strike zone a little bit longer during your off peak. You know, one thing I've been doing to show you guys the cast and all that is I've been lining up with the slips, but I actually don't recommend that because when you set the hook, it pulls you straight in. So one thing to consider when you're fishing docks or slips and marinas is to angle your boat so that when you set the hook, you don't get dragged in, and then to have your paddle across your leg, that way you can dip, and even while you're still fighting the fish, you can just elbow or fulcrum paddle. You put the paddle in the water and push against your torso, and it keeps you from being sucked in. There she is. Oh, he threw the dang it. Threw my fluke away, you little punk. Alright guys, let me show you an up close way to rig this fluke real fast. And then I sometimes take for granted little simple things like this. So I really like these Mustad extra wide gap hooks. I also like the owner hooks, but I also just started using these little Berkeley hooks. So anyway, so there's your hook. This is a 5/0. I wanted a little bit of an extra weight to help make that fluke fall. You're just going to go straight into the nose. What I generally do is go right to the transition. That's about the depth I want to go in. I make a hard turn out. You're going to push that up and just push it just over the eye. And then I like to pinch it. It makes that eye of that hook dig in. You just hang it naturally, put it into the slit, grab that with your fingers, and then turn it and go 90 degrees. Just go right between your fingers, and then what you want is that hook to lay nice and flat on that back. And then sometimes you can just leave it open, but here in these docks, because there's ropes and things like that, I'll just barely skin it, just like so, and that'll work really well. Been kind of weird today. We haven't had the situation where I've caught like 5, 6, 7, 8 fish off of one pocket. It's really been isolated onesie twosie fish, and it's not uncommon though that you can get into them and throw back into the same spot, and you got a school that's hanging underneath one of these floating pylons, and you can just wreck them. But today it's been one fish at a time, which is fine by me. I'm having fun. One of the things that I'm gonna start trying to bring you guys more of in the video is just the fun fishing. You know, like I've talked about a couple times, everything doesn't have to be epic. Everything doesn't have to be like best day ever, personal best. A lot of fishing is just fishing. It's just relaxing. It's getting out of the house. It's catching fish is a victory in a lot of cases. I did have one hooked back there that would have But I'm not gonna redefine my day over the fact that I lost that fish. I'm gonna say to myself, hey, there's another one. Let's go get that. Well, guys, listen, that was a fun day of catching fish for me. Luckily, I wasn't in the tournament, because if I was in the tournament, the fish that I caught wouldn't have really done anything for me. I would have finished 50th out of 24. But let's walk over here and talk to Daniel and see how he finished his day up. All right, buddy. So how did you finish your day up?
Well,
actually, I guess tell us about the whole day.
It was slow. I was catching fish every 30 minutes maybe. I couldn't really get a bite together in the marina, so I went up and headed into a cove, and I caught a couple fish, 2 or 3 in there, and then I realized that my identifier was wrong, so all those fish that I caught didn't count, so they had to get DQ'd.
Now explain that to people that don't know catch photo release. What does that mean, the identifier was wrong?
So, like if the identifier is like 3 letters or whatever it is, and you do something different and you thought it was something else and you wrote it down differently, then it's DQ.
So you lost 3 fish?
5. 4, yeah, 5.
5? What would you have finished up with at the end of the day if those 3 fish counted?
I think like 70.
Okay.
Maybe.
Respectable.
Nothing
Cool.
huge, but.
Well, I guess get everything loaded up, buddy, and get on the road. I've got to get on the road, and congratulations. I think you grinded. I definitely think you impressed a lot of people. You're fishing against some of the top guys in the country.
Yeah.
And there's 2 things you can do fishing: learn and get better. That's all it's all about, man. All right, guys, so listen, before we end this video, I got to give credit where credit's due, and that credit goes to the man who took home the title for the KBF Trail, Knoxville, Tennessee, Tennessee River, Loudon, and a whole bunch of other lakes. This guy's a longtime friend of mine. He has been out there grinding on the trail, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is his first KBF Trail win. Now, this guy's like the Aaron Martins of kayak fishing, though, because he's got a lot of seconds and thirds and fourths, and it's always been that close. So I spent 2 days with Daniel Keys, making sure that he had an escort to be out on the water, but I'm gonna spin the camera around right here and talk to you guys about this guy right here.
That's right.
That's South Carolina's own and Palmetto State kayak anglers lead head honcho, top dude, whatever, Mr. Barry Davis. So listen, guys, I'm gonna get over here on the other side of the camera, and this is Barry's time to shine. All right, so Barry, talk to us about winning the KBF Trail on the Tennessee River here in Loudon, and not just winning the trail, but beating Russ Snyder, who was streaking. You know what I'm saying?
There's several Tennessee hammers was in this crowd today. Yeah. It makes me feel even better.
I think we had 8 of the top 20 anglers in the KBF overall rankings at this event. So you beat some hammers. Anyway,
that makes you feel even better when you find that out.
Talk to us about your day, man. Talk to us about where you fished, how you fished, what adjustments you made. What were your keys to success?
Well, I had to make some adjustments because yesterday I was 1 fish shy yesterday. I was hurting. I went back to fishing me instead of fishing what other people say, and switched back up to my wacky rig and followed it up with a shaky head, and that's what I done all day long. And I threw 3 different color lures all day long, and they were between a wacky rig and a shaky head. And I caught most of my fish wacky rig. I caught the 19 1/4 come on the shaky head, and the 17 come on the shaky head. Everything else I caught today come on the wacky rig. I fished on the French Broad, well above where it goes in the Tennessee River. I was probably, I don't know mile wise, I'm probably 5 miles below the Douglas Dam where I was at. The area that I picked ended up being the same water that several of the other guys' hammers in this area was on. So when I showed up Friday and seen they was in that area, I knew I was on the right water. So I stuck with it all 3 days, the half-day practice I had, then yesterday and today, and it paid off today.
So, Barry, you couldn't get to these tournaments without a lot of fine folks supporting you. So talk to me about who you want to thank for sponsors or people in your life or whatever that makes this whole thing possible for you.
Jesus Christ first, because we can't do any of this without that. If you don't know him, we'll tell you about him. My wife is my #1 supporter. I called my wife a while ago and told her I was coming to meet you, which I knew what that meant when you called me and said, hey, I need to meet you. And
wait,
she
you mean
started
I wasn't discreet? Come on, man.
But you know, when that went on,
I actually started to mess with him, and I started to say, hey, Barry, listen, man, there's a couple of your fish that are questionable. I'm gonna need to meet up with you to go over a couple of them. But what I did want to do was find him fell out at some roadside park somewhere. Plus, I mean, look at that dude right there. You can't do that.
I try my best to make sure
not
my
as hard
fish
as
are
he's
right.
grinded and as hard as he's fished. And I'll tell you something else, guys. I have literally watched this guy own fisheries where he is kicking butt and taking names, share information with another angler, whether he knows them or don't know them, that ends up putting them on fish and costing him the dang tournament, right? That's how good a dude this guy right here is. So anyway, guys, listen, y'all do me a favor. There is no round of applause because we are doing everything virtual now, but your round of applause is commenting in the comment section below and congratulating South Carolina's own Mr. Barry Davis. Barry, tell me one more time who you want to thank. Give me the short list to make sure that they know how much you care, how much you appreciate their support to be able to get out there and do what you do.
Bass Pro and Cabela's, ALX rods. Y'all, everybody hears me talk about ALX rods all the time, and I bent them good today. Pradco Brands, which is Yum, Booyah, list goes on and on. It's on the shirt here. Fish Stalker Lures out of South Carolina. Bonafide Kayaks, YakAttack. I'm still Bonafide and YakAttack up one side and down the other. Torquita, I'm not on their team, but the Torquita pushed me on the river real good and paid off in the long run on bonus bucks too, which was nice. I couldn't win the bonus bucks on Feel Free because I had to be in my Bonafide, but anyway, I appreciate them putting the money up for the trail on our end of it anyway.
Awesome.
But that's about it. Sugar Tick Custom Lures. One of my buddies, Shane Graham, I'll give him a holler out. He does some custom lures for me from time to time. Didn't use them on the river today, but he does some nice work.
All right, so Barry, listen, I want to talk to you real quick about something that I harp on in my videos, and that is adjusting your presentation to the conditions. So we have a full moon right now, right? With that full moon, the primary feeding time was actually after the tournament was over. It was like 2:40 to 4:40.
I looked at that myself.
And so one of the things that I see you do is I see you switch up your style a lot. But I want to honest answer this question because this is actually crucial to the way people adjust making fishing. Did you make the adjustment to the fishing, or did this tournament line up with your style of fishing?
I made an adjustment because yesterday I was off bad.
Really?
I throwed a shaky head all day yesterday, but throwed the wrong color and I throwed the wrong size head on it. I changed to a small head where it fell really slow, and then a weightless wacky, and I went with a really bright color until the sun got up, and then changed to my greens and reds, and party was on.
Nice. So listen, guys, here's the thing. Whether you believe it or not, whether you buy into the theory or not, solunar times and feeding periods are a big deal. When you are fishing in tournaments and you don't have the feeding windows in the tournament time, the power fishing times, you should think of power fishing in your peak times, slow it down all the other times, and kind of ramp up with finesse or slower stuff in transitional times. I'll talk about some transitional lures, soft bloody swim baits with a light weight on them, real slow to real slow, Colorado blades that stay in the strike zone longer versus willow leaf blades and things like that. But what I can tell you is this: I've literally watched this guy make adjustments. Like I said, I've seen him share the water. He's been perpetually the bridesmaid, never the bride, but for this time he has got the big train on and the veil of a beard.
I've always said I was the Harry Gant.
The Harry Gant. All right.
NASCAR, he always ended up second, so I was always
listen,
handsome Harry, handsome Barry.
Like I said, man, congratulations, Barry. I love this guy right here. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. Congratulations to Russ for taking home the win yesterday, and I think coming in second today, or right there in the top three. Second place, that guy is hot. Makes that win that much better that you literally beat the #1 ranked kayak angler by any standard in the world, and did it in his home state. You know what I mean? So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So listen, y'all do me a favor, light up the comment section with that guy right there. Congratulate him on his first KBF trail win, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank y'all.
Hey guys, before we head back out to the water, I want to talk to you about my choice for fishing paddles, and that is the Bending Branches Angler Series. They're stiff, they're well made, they're made in America. They're my choice for a fishing paddle. They're easy to use, easy to adjust, and you're able to cover water without fatiguing. So to pick up your Bending Branches paddle, head over to the folks at Fish USA, America's Tackle Shop. Now let's get back out there and put that paddle to use.